Hello, and welcome back to the Power of We podcast. The Power of We is all about doing life together, sharing our wisdom, our knowledge, and strength with one another. I'm your host, Nisa Springmann, and it's been a minute. I had to put the podcast on pause for a little bit because priorities shifted for me until last night while cooking dinner. This idea for today's podcast popped into my head. I'm super excited to be back, especially as we are entering the Final Four, NCAA Final Four tournament. So I've got my favorite basketball coach and my favorite we with me today as our guest. This is Russell Springmann.
Hello.
That was nice, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Said
really
you're my
nice.
favorite we.
I'm glad I'm your favorite.
All right, so you might know him as Coach Springmann or Coach Russ. He's a college basketball veteran who's been in the game for nearly or really 30 years. He spent 17 years at the University of Texas, which is my alma mater. He recruited and coached some of the very best, including the 2003 team at UT, which was led by Coach Rick Barnes. And this team made it to the Final Four. Additionally, he's coached at the University of San Diego and then Oral Roberts under Coach Paul Mills, which was when we experienced a Cinderella season, taking it all the way to the Sweet 16 and upsetting both University of Florida and Ohio State, which I know busted lots of brackets. That was very fun. I should also add that he scouted for the Oklahoma City Thunder, so he knows a thing or two about the NBA. So the reason why I'm bringing Russell on today is because I know that there are thousands of moms and dads who will be watching the Final Four with their kid or kids who dream of having not only playing college basketball, but having their own shining moment in the Final Four. And so because I'm his wife, I have heard him have hundreds of conversations, genuine, real and personal conversations with both athletes and their parents about how to make their dreams come true, their athletes' dreams come true. And so I thought today would be the perfect opportunity to ask Russell, Coach Springmann, 3 questions. With the first being, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. The first being, you've coached players at the highest level. What's one piece of advice you'd give an athlete who dreams of playing college hoops and even playing in the Final Four?
I think every athlete should ask themselves every night before they go to bed, did I get closer to my dream today? Because your dream doesn't stay in the same place. You either get closer to it or it gets further from you. And then if you go back from that is, what did I do to get closer to my dream today? And then what do I need to do tomorrow to get even closer? Because you don't stay the same. You're either getting better or you're getting worse every single day. And I think part of that process entails identifying what am I doing well and what do I need to do better. So you're identifying improvement areas also and then attacking those. And I think that's something that can be challenging for everybody, but in particular young people, because sometimes you want to focus on the things that you do well and you might not address the things that you need to improve upon. So I think having a humble mindset and an awareness of where am I today and where do I need to be tomorrow in order to get closer to what I ultimately want to achieve is really important.
Well, and I will say this is a conversation that you have a lot with Durant, our son, 14, who loves baseball. He has a dream of playing college baseball and then playing in the MLB. And I've heard you say that many times to him. So really that is applied to any athlete, but in your world, basketball. Okay, awesome. And there's so much more wisdom that you can share, but we'll save that for more podcasts. Okay, next, because again, you've had just as many conversations with parents as you have these athletes. And so what's the one piece of advice you would give the parents, the moms and dads, the us's of the world, as they are supporting their athlete to fulfill their college basketball dream?
I think athletes that are being recruited, I would start there just because that's the world that I've lived in the most. The to me, the most important thing is finding people you trust. Without trust, I don't think anything else matters.
And when you say those people, you're referring to
coaches,
mm-hmm.
right? And then I'll back up in a second. You want to find people that you can trust are going to build upon a foundation that you establish with your child. And trust is, in my mind, a combination of time and communication. Because as time goes on, you realize, all right, I can trust you to do what you said you were going to do. I can trust you to do what I believe you are going to do. So I think that's what's most important. And then, the second part of it is, where does your child have the best opportunity to make their dream or dreams happen? And I think those dreams have to go beyond the sport. So the sport is part of it, right? Like everybody being recruited has a dream of playing that particular sport in college. Like you had just referenced Durant. Like Durant wants to play college baseball. So that's the focus of the dream. And that's what young people typically do, put their eyes on and put their minds on. But as adults, having a much different lens, it's important to evaluate, okay, how does this situation ultimately end up helping them with a dream that's beyond the sport? And it's such a small number of people that are able to play a sport professionally for a living. And it's probably 1%, roughly. At one point, Coach Barnes would reference this. It's easier to become a brain surgeon statistically than it is to play basketball in the NBA.
So then back to your point with looking at the big picture.
And I believe as adults, we have a responsibility to provide a different view for young people than what they can see. I heard a coach say this a long time ago. And he was having a conversation with a young man that he was coaching who was 15. And he let the young man speak. And at the end, he had asked that young man, how old are you? And the kid said, I'm 15. He said, okay, have you ever been 45? And the kid said, no, I'm only 15. He said, exactly my point. I'm 45. So you have never been where I am, but I have been where you are. So now you need to listen to what I'm going to say because I listen to you. And I think having a perspective of utilizing your experience to help somebody that can't see what they don't know is there. So being able to go beyond the sport, all right, well, how does this university provide you with an education that propels your future whenever it is that it's going to be necessary? How does this network help you in your chosen field? Those are things that a lot of young people are not going to evaluate. And I remember I was telling you this earlier. Wanda Pratt, Kevin Durant's mother, had said one of the most profound things to me I'd ever heard a parent say, actually the most profound thing I've ever heard in recruiting. And she said, ultimately, this decision will be Kevin's, but he's too young to make it. So we will educate him on how to make a life decision. So I think that is a huge responsibility that as parents we have, is to educate our children on how to make a life decision, what goes into that, because typically kids can make an emotional decision and that's more of a reaction. And a lot of times an emotional decision isn't the best decision. So how do you educate, that young person on what they should be thinking about or things for them to think about that they might not have put thought into to make the best decision possible?
Well, back to Wanda Pratt. There's a lot of Wandaisms, so maybe one day we'll do a podcast with just some of her wisdom. I know, I'd love to. But the other thing is, for parents, we have to check ourselves too, our perspective, right? Like it's hard for us to not be all caught up in the hype.
I think it's hard for anybody, regardless of your age, to not get caught up when people show you a lot of attention. Mm-hmm. I think it's a natural response for everybody to feel good when they receive attention, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think the key is evaluating what's real. As you go through a process, and for some people, this process begins when their child is 13, 14 years old. I think as parents, we owe it to our kids to help them identify what's real. And, something that's, I think, hard for all of us is managing social media and everything, because so much of what's on social media is an individual mentality, right? Look at me, look at me, look at me. And I think that's what young people have become used to. You're dealing with likes, you're dealing with follows,
comments.
It just seems like everything is brought to you. And, this gets into a whole nother conversation regarding mental health is, you get young people comparing what their page looks like or what their post looks like or how many likes or follows they have as compared to somebody else. And sometimes what's being presented isn't real.
Well, we had this conversation with Durant last 2 weekends ago when he was in his head playing. He was having a really bad baseball tournament at first, and it eventually got good, but he just said, or he did better. He said, I'm just so in my head. So like missing the most elementary pop flies, striking out, just uncharacteristic of his level and his skill set. And we talked about it, and he said, and we knew he was in his head because we know he's capable of playing much better. And I said to him, are you in your head? He's like, I'm so in my head. And I said, okay, what are you saying to yourself? And so we had that conversation. And then we had to remind him, are you going to social media? Are you seeing what other like these superstar kids his age are doing? Because he's thinking, I got to do better than them. So those are just like, that's a little thing that is a big thing. Just what he is seeing and then interpreting, and in his little 14-year-old brain with, no life experience. And that is too much pressure for anybody to have to keep up with.
I think the other part of that is, back to life is, right, you don't control somebody else's batting average. You don't control somebody else's fielding average. You control yours. And identifying, okay, what did I need to do better? And I think, as it related to that particular experience, back to mindset, it was, what are you telling yourself? And what Durant communicated was, I didn't want the ball to get hit to me. When it did get hit to me, I was overly concerned about making a mistake. And he had made some comments about, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this. And I told him, you're lying. You're lying to yourself, because the truth is you can, because you have done all of these things before. But, again, being able to establish a mentality that allows an athlete, and really you could just say a person, to move forward is really important. And it's a life lesson. You have to get to what's next. You have to learn from what happened, and you have to get to what's next, because things keep moving, the game keeps moving, and life keeps moving. So there are plenty of opportunities to learn. But you had referenced parents earlier, and what situations they're in. I think a fundamental responsibility is support. And I do think as parents, we can get caught up in things besides that. And I think the ultimate responsibility we have is to support them and what they're doing, and then help them move forward with what they want to do. Like, there are some kids that they're playing just to have fun. And I think sometimes as parents, we can have a tendency, because it's almost like we want to relive our experience through them, or we want it to be a better experience than what we had.
Well, not just that, what I've noticed, and this is embarrassing, but when they kind of don't play well or have a moment that you're not proud of, it feels like a reflection on you a little bit. And I'm embarrassed to say that, but I've noticed that about myself. And I can so easily see how, if you don't catch that at the moment, you feel that little bit of like, oh my God, is that really my kid? That it can snowball into a lot of negative, just in a negative environment for your kid to have fun and play or fulfill his dreams, whatever it is, or her dreams.
What that can provide too, though, is a feeling for your son or your daughter of additional pressure. And pressure can be a good thing. There's all kinds of examples, but it can also,
pressure can be a privilege. We've had that conversation before.
Yeah, but
the right kind.
Also cause damage. And I think there's always an evaluation of how much pressure to apply, when to apply it, because sometimes it will be received and other times it will be repelled. And you have to identify, all right, where is this person at this point? So for Durant, in that moment after the game, he's down, and it's not like he's trying to miss a pop fly. He's not trying to strike out. But as a parent, you feel like, oh, dear Lord, what in the world is going on? And it gets back to, the other part of it with support is, how do I help? Right? Like, we're actually called to serve. We're called to help. So,
and they know they've messed up. So bringing that to their attention doesn't help any.
Well, I think you have to be able to communicate. And, somebody had told me this a while back, which I thought was great advice. Ask them.
Yeah.
Hey, how do you feel you did at the plate? How do you feel you did in the field? How do you feel you pitched? And then that allows you to identify, okay, where are they? And then that should allow you to establish, okay, what is the best step for me to take now? Anyway.
There's so much there. There's so much. And would be remiss to say we have an amazing 11-year-old daughter too who dances. It's just that neither of us really know anything about dance. We're talking basketball. My father is a basketball coach, retired basketball coach. I played basketball and then married a basketball coach. So basketball is a big part of our family. Maybe one day we'll talk about dance. We'll bring Elaine on and she can inform us about dance. Okay. So, thank you for that. I think you answered that question. I didn't. You answered that question in a lot of different ways. So there's a lot more there that we can unpack in the future. Okay. So inside scoop, last question. As I said in the intro, in 2003, you coached University of Texas under Rick Barnes to a Final Four, New Orleans. It was amazing. And it's also a lot. And when I put myself in coach's shoes, it overwhelms me thinking about not only the level of preparation that goes into it, but then also all the hype that's around it. You've got the media, you've got fans, you've got the pressure coming from all the different places. And so, and back in 2003, there wasn't even social media. So that was not even a part of the pressure cooker or distraction. So question is, as a coach who coached in a Final Four game, how do you prepare, number one, and then how do you keep the players focused with all of the noise and distractions?
I think the preparation is the same. It's just intensified because you're closer to the ultimate goal for that season, which is to win a national championship. And what you want to make sure, and honestly, this was the same for every game, you want to be prepared for everything that you can possibly experience in the game to the best of your ability. You don't want to look back and go, man, I should have known, or I didn't look at a baseline out of bounds play with a short shot clock. I need to know. And your preparation probably just gets, again, more intensified, because then back to the other part of that question, you don't want the players to feel like it's different. You want them to feel the same rhythm, and you want them to be confident there, and you don't want to make it feel alien, right? Like they did a lot of good things or they wouldn't be there. So if you come up and all of a sudden you're presenting in a way that's totally different than you have the whole year, they're going to feel that anxiety from you. They're going to feel that stress from you, and that's negative. So I do think that that's a balance as a coach, is identifying everything that you can and simplifying the message to the players that is the same as it's always been. And in terms of that, like maintaining that rhythm, now it's different in terms of what the players experience, but you really want to remove as many distractions as you possibly can. You want your team to be in practice, in film, in the hotel. You're going to get them together, and you want to try to minimize outside noise as much as possible to maintain their focus. And this is probably being hypocritical, but you also want them to embrace the excitement that surrounds that event, because the Final Four is special. And
I think that would be a tricky balance to strike.
I think it is. And again, especially when you're younger, but I think this too, the players know that they're close to achieve. Like, first of all, Coach Barnes used to always say this, don't take the tournament for granted. Like, just making the NCAA tournament is special, right?
And that is not the Final Four. That's the NCAA tournament.
So then advancing in the tournament obviously adds to that experience. Getting to a Sweet 16 is really, really hard to do. And then it's harder to get to an Elite Eight and so on. So to get to a Final Four is an incredible accomplishment, right? And you're putting yourself in a position to do something that only one team in Division I is going to do, and that's win their last game on Monday night. So you want them to embrace the feel of you are doing something special, but at the same time try to maintain the rhythm that parallels the preparation that's gone into all of the games that have led to that. And what's different now is the social media aspect. You have some coaches when they're on the road, they take phones away, and there's a designated contact person for parents. Hey, in the event of a challenge or an emergency, please reach out to so-and-so. Here's the number. And everybody's different with how they do it, but you really want them to avoid outside noise and be focused on the task at hand, which is preparing for whoever it is that's in front of you next.
Got it. Well, do you have any predictions for this weekend or Monday or Saturday, Monday? You don't have to say.
I don't. I really don't. I think it's been a long time. I think since we've had 4 number 1 seeds all advance to the Final Four. I think the matchups are going to be incredible and a lot of fun to watch. These are the teams that were projected, obviously, at the beginning of the tournament to get here. It's just rare that happens.
I think I saw it's been since 2008 that
that's right.
This is happened.
That's right. Yep. But I think all the matchups are really, really good, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, awesome. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Hope y'all enjoyed it. Thank you for watching the Power of We podcast, and we hope you have fun watching the NCAA tournament and supporting your kids to fulfill their basketball dreams and just dreams in general.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like more workouts, recipes, information, inspiration, empowerment, and encouragement to live your most fit, healthy, and beautiful life, hit the subscribe button or head below to sign up for our 2-week trial and become an Ignite member. I look so forward to igniting our lives together.